Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome Miss Philippa McDonald, also known AKA as Pip, a marvelous poet, author, entertainer, uh, just a magical being beyond words. So let me say, welcome, Pip. How are you today? I hope you're well.
Thank you very much, Richard, for having me. I'm very well. And how are you doing at your end?
I'm doing very well. I have had a chance to do some writing, had some correspondence, and I have the great pleasure of interviewing a very talented author and performer. So I'm as they say in a really wonderful place. Now, as you know, the first part of the show is an interview portion where we get to learn a little bit about, and I never say we learn all about, we learn a little bit about another wonderful author. So let me ask you the first of a series of questions, and this is completely unprepared. I love spontaneous. When people ask me, did I get a shot of the group or whatever, and I said, no, I don't like staged shots. I like spontaneity, so that's why I never give my authors the questions in advance. So my first question, you know, writers have such a powerful relationship to books and to ideas. What's the earliest book you remember?
Maybe something like Lord of the Flies,
Really?
William Golding.
Wow.
That came into my head. Um, how humanity appears and disappears on islands.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
the way that humans evolve or don't evolve for
Okay.
survival.
Okay.
Um, and powerful images of pigs' heads. Um, and then my mind went to John Clare's I Am and embracing a bit of melancholy. And I can remember reading T.S. Eliot and Prufrock at school and just being captivated by this melancholy. Is it me that just gets it? Or am I getting it? Or what is it? I know that T.S. Eliot's name is an anagram for toilets, but Prufrock's on another level, isn't it? um, yeah, there's a fantastic book by Willie Russell called The Wrong Boy as well. My mum introduced me to, um, where the character writes letters to a rock star. Um, maybe not one of the more well-known pieces of work that Willie Russell, obviously Blood Brothers and so forth, but I don't know to what extent it was autobiographical, but it was, a journey of self and authenticity and finding your way. So The Wrong Boy by Willie Russell, The Lord of the Flies, William Golding. It's just authors beginning with W, isn't it?
Sure.
So yeah.
Sure. Okay. Next question. Um, do you remember your first book? The first book you can remember someone giving you?
The first book, probably The Wrong Boy, actually, from my
Okay.
mum.
Okay. Um, now we all have our, required writing for school, for education, for different social matters. Do you remember when you first started writing for fun?
I've moved to myself. Writing for fun. It was actually lyrics that I wrote, and songs on my guitar. My dad gave me his guitar. He worked all summer as a boy for this guitar, and I wrote songs and lyrics. And at the time I was growing up, it was the age of Britpop in the UK. So everyone was picking up guitars and getting back into the music from the 60s and the 70s, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles again, sort of being inspired by Oasis and Blur. So it was actually lyrics and songs. I mean, then my dad got me into Pink Floyd, and I really liked A Momentary Lapse of Reason. I loved the artwork. All these beds on a beach. And I liked the lyrics, on the turning away. It's not enough just to stand and stare. And I really liked some of the other stuff, Learning to Fly. Again, it's this melancholy. T.S. Eliot's on one of those beds, I think. It was like, Learning to Fly, tongue-tied and twisted, just an earthbound misfit I. My dad got me into all of that, and I really liked. So it was lyrics, really.
Okay.
It wasn't poems, but a lot of the lyrics that I wrote, I did turn into poems many years later. There's nothing like, you used to read, when you actually got a CD and you would read the lyrics. I used to love that.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
You don't get a lot of that with MP3 files.
No, I think on Spotify you could have kind of scroll down when you're playing a song, and you can read the lyrics at the same time. But my earliest memory was reading and writing lyrics and really enjoying that.
Okay, next question. If you think back to the earliest authors, I know you've mentioned a couple, but was there one author in particular that really stuck out to you?
I'm just looking at my bookshelf, which you can't see right now. If there was one particular one, let's have a look. So there's Douglas Adams, going back to the meaning of life. There's Justine Garda, the book that gets a lot of people into philosophy. Maybe we can go with that one.
Okay.
Sophie's World.
Okay. Next. Now, many of us writers start young, and there's a distinct center of balance shift when you just write for fun, you write because you're compelled, versus thinking of yourself as a future writer. Do you remember when you thought of yourself first as a future writer?
The answer is I didn't.
You're a writer, by the way.
That feels like a very coincidental. It feels like an accidental sum of the parts, not unintentional thing. It was more of I'm curious about this, I want to write something about this, or it wasn't really a conscious choice.
Okay. Now, when did you first start performing poetry, or I guess maybe songs?
There was a really creative place that I was staying in London, and there was a choir and a kind of showcase event. So I did a lot of my own songs with other people, with instruments there. And then I did do a lot of, say, presentations. I used to enjoy engaging people, for example, with work. And then I think I tried an open mic style event, a couple of them in London and in Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of England. And it was just like, wow, there's a whole community here of people that are doing this, and it's bigger than itself. A person I met online during the lockdown was a Dr. Lee Campbell, and he was doing some fantastic multimodal work on Zoom with his performance and his poetry. So I met him online, and then I met him again at an open mic in London. And he curates something called POW, Play on Words with Colin B. Osborne, who's another fantastic poet, absolutely outstanding poet. And I met a lot of people with their own spoken word nights in London. So it just kind of started exponentially from, I guess, meeting Lee and going along to these open spoken word nights, both online and in person. And that was maybe 2019, something like that. And then online in 2020, 2021, something like that. So I haven't actually been doing it that long, but I know what I want to do and that I want to turn up and hear my friends read every month, every week. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take you back a little earlier again. Now, many writers of extremely creative bent also wrote in school, wrote for school papers or newsletters or art magazines or yearbooks. Did you write when you were in school?
I think I did. I contributed to things like the choir and the theatre, the school theatre productions, and singing groups. I played the drums in a wind band. If there was some sort of creative opportunity, I think I naturally wanted to take part. I don't think I wrote as much as I played music or sang. The writing, I think, came later. I think I wrote a lot with work. I like to write articles or short pieces, or contribute to a paper. I was lucky to be a poet in residence for a learning and teaching organisation in Birmingham. That was in 2023. So it was nice to sort of write poetry in an academic space and bring ideas alive pedagogically, exploring pedagogic ideas, and disrupting that space. And it was great, to be able to do that, and for people to be open enough to welcome someone doing something slightly different. So I think writing for performance and writing for page are two things that feel a little bit different for me. So often writing for performance means a very shortened version of a page poem that I've written, and there might be a longer version of it published somewhere else that I've got, or I might adapt it slightly. I don't see writing as writing. I see it as something. I don't see it as a formal thing. I see it as something that's quite exciting.
Well, you
If that makes
certainly
sense.
deliver an interesting and engaging presentation of your writing. When you were in your school time, were your teachers encouraging or ambivalent or discouraging?
I think encouraging. I can remember reading the poetry component of the exams that we go through here, and being given the tools to unpack them. Wilfred Owen, etc. Dulce decorum est pro patria moriat, and Coleridge, as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. All the albatross business, and the withered arm. Being given the tools to unpack what was actually going on there, and also to be able to pass an exam. But I can remember feeling quite lucky, really, that the teachers knew what was clearly had a subject specialism and had enough pedagogic awareness to be able to teach us how to make sense of it and have our own opinions. So I was encouraged, and again with things like choir, going on tour to Norway with the choir at school, and getting involved with things, shows, theatre. I felt encouraged. I think the impact of having a teacher that doesn't inspire you can be very damaging. But I think that you naturally move towards what you're meant to do anyway, and school isn't the end of life.
Thank you. Thank you. Good point. I've heard stories over the years of very creative people, some who were nourished in their academic experience, and some who were discouraged and told to stop and shut up and all that kind of stuff. I've had a mixture myself. Next question. Of the contemporary poets in the universe you swim in these days, do you want to mention one or two that you find their work interesting or engaging?
Yeah, so going back to Lee Campbell and Colin Osborne, we recently did, and they invited me to take part in a really interesting project at Brighton International Animation Festival, where poets were invited to respond poetically to some animation. So I really like animation. I'm so excited about the worlds that people create. Visually, I just think it's fascinating. The intricacy, from Persepolis to, all these Watership Down. So it was wonderful to be able to do that. So there was a lovely film called The Grand I think it was called The Grand Dandy Warhol. Well, that was the poem I wrote in response to it about parenting. And another incredible piece of work with work by Max Cooper, I think it's Max Cooper, about, I think it was called Pulse at the Centre of Being. I'm sorry if I've got that wrong. So it was wonderful to use a piece of animation to trigger some. It was really interesting to see what came out and how the audience responded to it and how I could bring it alive. So Lee Campbell, Colin B. Osborne. There was another poet there called Redeeming Features. He has an incredible style of performance. He's come to Sunderland in the northeast of England, and I think he will again. With 2 books, he's just got this incredible style to sort of disrupt the space and capture everyone's attention. There's a wonderful poet in the northeast called Just Think Phil. Incredible performer. The listening to him perform is just bliss. The words, his performance, the way he memorizes things, and he's also very creative. He creates artwork as well, and I'm really, so I think those 4 people, for me right now, really inspire me.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next question. Speaking of inspiration, now in the world of poetry, one of the important debatable issues is one school of thought says write every day. Write, whether you have something to say or not, just write for the experience of writing, for the exercise of those muscles. The other end of that spectrum, and of course, there's a lot of phases in between, but the other end of that spectrum says, oh no, only write when you're inspired. Don't force it, don't push it. When you're inspired to write, that's the pure stuff, that's the good stuff. Write then, but don't clutter your head or your life with scribbling something every day, probably meaningless. In that spectrum, from write every day to write only when you're inspired, where do you fall in that spectrum?
Probably somewhere in the middle. I feel like I'm able to write and produce poems under pressure. So with a deadline, I feel like I can do that. I also write when I'm boiling vegetables. So I have 20 minutes. 20 minutes. That does my peppers and my courgettes. I also write in cafes, in McDonald's and Greggs, where I don't have to be anyone. I did a collaboration with two lovely people, Liam and Lisa, from an Instagram account called Come Scran With Us. Now, Scran is vernacular for food in the northeast of England. And performed it at a local gallery called 24 Northeast, and worked with a lovely artist called Ken Devine. And I had a deadline for it. And I find that again, it's this deadline. You know, you're incubating your ideas, you've written all your ideas down. I certainly don't write every day, but if someone says something, like a friend was talking about, he's got a lovely beard, a bit like you, and he was talking about getting a haircut, and he said, "Remember the locks," and I was like, "Oh, that's a poem." Remember the locks. So it's just, you write stuff down. I tend to write stuff down as I'm inspired, or it's just a phrase or something that really gets you. It goes there, and you have to write it down. So I don't write every day. I write to deadline and write when I'm inspired. And then sometimes the poem needs it's very raw, and then it needs a bit of refinement and some grammar and commas, and it needs a bit of research. So for example, I wrote a poem, my therapist is like Paul Weller, and I researched all the songs that he'd written with Style Council, with the Jam, solo work, and tried to weave those into the poem. So you do need to do some research sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then when my mum was really ill in a care home, I had an idea to do a poem called Tour de Care Home, and that sort of sat in an incubating state while she was ill. And then I was able to write it after she passed away. So allowing things to be, I wouldn't say to people be prescriptive. I think we have different forms of discipline within our practice that just emerge. It's not modal verbs of should, only when it's a deadline.
Thank you. Next question. Are there themes that you return to again and again?
Yeah, definitely. So since my mum passed, it was a lot about illness, grief, spaces of care homes. Grief's been a huge one that informed the poem I wrote called The Grief Encounter that I performed. I was lucky enough to perform with writers and scribers in Royal Festival Hall. That was magic. So Grief Encounter. Grief, mums, mothers. Also, I really liked writing about sort of everyday domestic things, bin liners, kitchen rolls, deodorants, things like that. I mean, and then you find yourself researching things like what is the best bin liner. So you're sort of getting slightly obsessed with that world and that semantic field and that vocabulary. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. But so I think grief and domestic items. had a wonderful opportunity to do a couple of shows at Durham Free Fringe Festival in the northeast of England, and the title of the show is Domesticon, and I performed it in London in a lovely theatre called the Space in the East End. So, what would these everyday objects say about us? What would your bin liner say about you, Richard? What would the trash say about you?
Well, interestingly enough, I was reading some Italo Calvino, an absurdist that I really enjoy. I don't know if you've seen his work, but it's really top-notch stuff. And because I'm a strongly absurdist myself, but he mentioned this in an essay that if you find yourself feeling like you're in a writing slump or a writer's block, he suggested this tactic. He said, take the most mundane object and write about it, because chances are you'll never show it to anybody. So that whole universe of expectation, and it's got to be framed this way, and what will people think, and I need to polish the word for this audience, all that stuff is gone. All that stuff is set aside, and you're just describing what's going on. So I decided to try it as an experiment. And I thought about it for a second, and what did I have to do that morning that was compelling? And I thought, well, not about compelling. I've got to sort the recyclables, the paper, the cardboard, the glass, the plastic, set it into separate bins, take it outside,
Yep.
prepare it for the recyclable vehicle to come by and pick it up. And I thought, okay, that's mundane enough. That's, unattractive enough. So I literally did an action, wrote it down, did an action, wrote it down, did an action, wrote it down, and with no expectation, in fact, with an anti-expectation of sharing it. And when I was done and I looked at it, it was amusing. It was funny. And
I'd
I
like
thought,
to read that.
I'm not even sure if I still have it, but I will look for it. It was just a charming little piece. And I was so happy with it. I ended up performing it the next day at a poetry group. Okay, next question. We're coming down the home stretch. Do you think that writers have a responsibility to address important issues of the time?
No, they can choose to.
Good answer. I like that answer. I myself am the driven type, but I completely understand that answer, and I can agree with you completely. Okay, next question. Now, this is, again, I only ask this of intelligent people, so on your mark. What makes a good poet?
Telling your truth without worrying about what the audience says, because when you tell the truth, people will come to your work authentically. What makes a good page poet? What makes a good performance poet? I think it always comes down to justice, doing your poems justice. For me, when I'm performing sort of in person, I really want to get a feel of the audience. So I'll maybe sit in beforehand or see what they're responding to, what do they need. And I always end up looking at everybody. Well, you can't do it in a huge venue. You have to sort of look up, but and you have no idea what people are thinking. Oh, I don't know. I don't know that question. I mean, I wrote a poem called The Velveteen Poet, inspired by... Well, I think it's... right, here's my answer. So the Velveteen Rabbit, you become real when you're loved, or you love. So the Velveteen Poet, I don't know if this is a corollary or not, but what makes a good poet when you love what you do? When you tell the truth, when you support other people, when you contribute to the community. I don't know. It's like a sum of its parts. I actually don't know. I think I'm not even sure do good poets ask questions? I can't answer that question.
But you did a darn good job of it.
I don't know, because there isn't a chartered institute of poetics that gives you
And if there
a
was, it
certificate
should
to.
be it should be closed.
I mean, can you imagine if you had to apply for a license or something to
Well,
practice
I have one.
poetics?
I've written my own poetic license. Okay, next. If a young person came up to you and said, I want to be a writer, and I'm wondering, is poetry worth it? Should I commit life space to a poetry?
It's I think I would say, what's the fire in your belly? What's the injustice? What's affecting you and your family and friends? That's the acid test. You can't cheat yourself. You're either pissed off about something or you're not. Is poetry worth it? Yes. It's lovely to see. I mean, it's amazing, that feeling. I often, that feeling of getting up and saying what's on your mind in a spoken word setting is addictive. And then so is poetry worth it? Don't ask silly questions, otherwise you'll get silly answers.
Well, from you, my dear, I would be happy to accept a silly answer. Okay, next to the last question. And this is one of those philosophical questions about poetry. Is narrative important in poetry?
Yes, it can be. I mean, if we mean story, yes. It depends where you want to take people, or what, and then sometimes some poems need a bit of context at the start, and that's why we get lost in the preamble. And yes, it can be important.
Okay. Last question. Do you have a question for me?
Why are we here, Richard?
Well, I'm here because I think that understanding a little about the artist helps me to experience the joy that I already feel having brushed up against the work of a very talented writer. And I personally enjoy spending time with writers and artists and musicians. It is one of the greatest pleasures in my life.
Yes, I echo. Same. I mean, it's spoken word Paris online every Tuesday is a delight. It's one of the ones I've returned to every week. You and David and Rorschach and the Leslies and all this love. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. At one point, I was going to quip, if we had one more Leslie. And then I thought, no, we have a wonderful array of Leslie.
We do.
We do.
We have really very talented Leslies who the poems, was it yesterday? I mean, just wonderful. Lantern Carrier. I've actually met Lantern Carrier in person. We both performed, I think, in London. I think it was Wandsworth Fringe Festival. Just a wonderful poet, really consistently producing these gorgeous poems.
I particularly enjoy. I was a student of comparative religion for a long time, so I've read widely in English anyway of a whole lot of spiritual documents from the Tibetan, the Egyptian Book of the Dead to the
Wow.
Ramayana, the Upanishads, books of Confucius, books from the Torah, the Quran, and many different Bibles, the Urantia book, the Taoist works, and among the poets that I know who really work, shall we say, in a spiritual, very
Yes.
spiritual mission or message, I find Lantern's work so wonderful because he has that ability to take the particular and the personal and the mundane and transmute it and make it absolutely universal and cosmic and deeply spiritual in the
Yeah.
best and highest sense. I kid
100%.
him that his work is more a benediction
Yes.
than a
It,
prayer.
it's that that's a beautiful way of putting it. I think he should feature as soon as, if not, you know, multiple times. I think I studied philosophy at university, some philosophy of religion, which I was really interested in. Um, I was really into morality, Ubermensch, whether morality is a refuge for the weak and models of the soul. And I really enjoyed that. I don't know if it informs my poems, possibly, because I keep returning to this Cartesian thing, you know. I think, therefore I am. I'm a poet, therefore I am. I keep saying that. You talked about going back to the same themes. I think sometimes souls, morals, thinking. I wrote a poem called Ode to Bias, thinking, well, these cognitive journeys. I suppose that you can't go back. When you've studied philosophy, you can never go back. Is that a curse? No, I
Well,
suppose it's a privilege, really, but
Steve Martin, the American comedian, is very. He was a philosophy student, and I think it informs his work
mm,
tremendously.
mm,
And uh, I I'll only mention this brief story. Uh, I got launched on that because I was as much as a 8, 9, 10, 11-year old could be. I was very devoutly religious, raised in the Catholic fold, but I found so much of the doctrine abhorrent, and I thought it was inconsistent with what I knew of Jesus and understood. But my critical moment came at confirmation when I was thrown out of the class, my study hall of a study of religion a lot because I asked impertinent questions, as a philosophically oriented person would do. But anyway, I missed hearing that you're supposed to kiss the ring at the conclusion of your confirmation in our church. I understand it's not universal, but anyway, I'm watching these children bend over and kiss this guy's ring. This guy in this inordinate ornamental helmet, special clothing, gold this and ruby red purple that, and I just thought it was so unchristlike. It just grated on my soul, and in my imaginary mind, could see Tom Jefferson and Tom Paine, these heroes of human liberty, of the Renaissance, of the Enlightenment, basically saying, the hell with kings, the hell with kissing the priest's robe, the hell with all that. And I thought, but wait a minute, you can't, you're 12. You can't, you can't go up to the bishop and explain to him that he's really not being Christ-like at all. So I thought the smart thing, just buckle down, go through it, kiss the ring. It'll take a moment. It's over. You couldn't explain this if your life depended on it. Don't worry about it. But when it came down to it, he put his hand in my face and I shook it. He snatches it back, puts it in my face again, and said, "Kiss it," in the kind of voice that you wouldn't
mm.
expect a holy man, to use. So I shook it again, and in front of the entire congregation, he orders me out of the church.
Wow.
So So I sort of took a vow to myself, to my spiritual self, and I said I will read every holy book I can. I want to understand
Yeah.
what the relations of God and humans are. I want to understand this because I'm a spiritual guy. This just seemed to me completely and utterly wrong. But who am I to critique the Holy Roman Catholic Church? So that's what launched me on my path. So, I sort of thank that rebellious spirit of mine. But enough of that. Now, my favorite part of this whole adventure, my dear. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Pip McDonald, most affectionately called Pip, my dear, the stage is yours. Let us have it.
There's 2, 3, 4 rings there. Shall we shake hands?
No. Those rings I would kiss.
Some wearable poetry. Right. Okay. Okay, the first one I'd like to do, if I may,
Oh,
is actually, I think what I'm going to do is have a new. How about that?
wonderful.
Why not? And
Wonderful.
actually, why don't we have a change of spectacles? Right. Oh, first, okay, the first poem is it's called The Makeup and the Wheelie Bin. So the wheelie bin is our trash, the equivalent of our trash. And it's so my mum used to have this phrase, always put your makeup on before you put the wheelie bin out. And she did. She put her makeup on before she put the wheelie bin out. She dressed up and was, beautiful. And so this is, I hope this makes sense. I go to war when I apply makeup. It gives me a kick. The 4 lipsticks of the apocalypse. Just you look at my apocalyptic. That's why it's called war paint. It's enough to make you drop dead or faint. Just you watch when I go into fire eyeliner mode. The grenade of my waterproof mascara will explode. My nail polish is sparkly, neon, yet nuclear. So have no fear when my makeup is here. The blusher is my shield. On my cheek, my mascara is a sword, so to speak. My T-zone is a war zone. I'm a soldier with a face on in a trench on her own. My grenades are in my makeup bag. They're crucial accessories. Be prepared for every type of enemy. Watch out! It could be a trap. Crossing the enemy line couldn't be done without putting on my slap. My blusher bomb will drop big time. Red explodes everywhere on each cheek as fast as Amazon Prime. It's hard not to notice when I'm at war because my makeup leaves you wanting for so much more. I once left the house without my lippy, and then I had to turn back. I only made it halfway to the chippy. There'll be tears before bedtime if my makeup application is forgotten. A whole new level of war. But like a true soldier, I fought on. When life gets you down, maybe there's Maybelline, but don't forget to put on your sunscreen. The bullet of my lip liner is so precise. My makeup will hold you in a vice. And sometimes I'll put a primer on before a foundation. War is declared on the whole nation. But then I take it all off at the end of the day. I give my skin a break and then I do it all again. My eyebrow pencil fires cannonballs all about. And what's lurking in my eyeshadow, it'll take you right out. Don't put your makeup on like you're running for the bus. Take your time. Make a big fuss. The devil's in the makeup and the detail. So go and invest in makeup retail. The only war crime here is to fail to apply, because I could never be agnostic during these difficult times. Always put your makeup on. It acts like armour. And after I've applied, I'll feel so much calmer. Always put your makeup on, even if you feel sad. After all, we're all comrades. And like my mother said, always put your makeup on, without a doubt. Even when you put your wheelie bin out, it's war out there. So powder your nose a little more. Because all is fair when makeup is war.
My God, that is tremendous. Tremendous. Bravo.
Right. Yes, I think I'm going to do Tour de Care. I referred to it during the interview. So this, actually, yes, why don't we have a change? Should we go there?
Lovely.
Yeah, let's go there.
Lovely.
Okay. Tour de Care was the poem that I talked about a little bit. It mixes two semantic fields, cycling and the Tour de France, and care homes. Chalk and cheese. So here we go. This is about the sort of lived experience of supporting my mum in the care home, etc. Right, here we go. The Tour de Care home makes its start avec le grand départ. You win the tour with the best time after 21 stages. Time goes by in strange ways in care homes. It changes the staff, the residents, the riders. But what can we really make of these care providers? Are they like corporate cycling teams, and do they divide us? Or do they ignite something inside us? The time trial commences. It's an individual race. We live and die at our own pace. Less time, more trial, but that urine smell, it's utterly vile. How would you feel if you needed a catheter? Is it what separates the pro from the amateur? Perhaps we'll go for a sprint finish. The domestiques have done their best, so don't diminish their input into the team. Without them, care homes wouldn't be what they are, what they seem. I'll have a good read of the care plan. It's because we started this race as we began. They say the tour is won and lost in the mountains. All the care and the marginal gains and the pains of the climbers and the descenders. But in care homes, there can be no pretenders. Who will wear the yellow jersey when care homes are supposed to be full of compassion and mercy? Sometimes you get to ride in the big ring. Every day is a new stage, a new beginning. All the gears, all the fears. But when does cadence become cadence? We don't just get to sit on the fence. We feel broken. In an explosion of emotion, we are riding in this inevitable peloton. The journey can be aerodynamic, magic, sometimes tragic, and then the tyres puncture and they go flat. And you can try to repair that, but some people never leave the care home. They're stuck, riding around an internal velodrome. Care is not a syndrome. Riders go off in the breakaway. The chasers are just behind and on their way. Chapeau for those of you who know what it's like to survive those difficult days. You're trying to make sense of what that doctor says, and sometimes in racing you might crash. But there's still lots of reasons to get right back up on your bike, because we have questions to ask. Maybe there are no winners in care. because life and death, not fair. We try our best, but who cares about care? Who cares about care? Where is care? I declare, from threadbare to threadcare, I ask, what if? What if all we had to do was care? Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Right. How are you, Richard?
I'm amazed and I am ecstatic in wonder and joy with your talent. You are an amazing, amazing voice, my dear.
Thank you, sir. Do you want another one?
Oh my gosh, yes. 2, 3 more at your
Okay.
convenience.
Next, I shall do The Grief Encounter after Noel Coward. So this is a poem made up of death euphemisms and some of my responses and my mum's, what I think, how my mum would respond. We say ridiculous things to each other when people die. And this is how it goes. Is wind or driving test? Do I need to ask? Oh, she's departed. But that sounds retarded. It slipped away, not before she paid. She's kicked the bucket. Ah, man, she's not a puppet. She's gone to heaven. Well, what's the lesson? Her time was up. Well, what? The dead duck, the creme de la crematorium. Let's have a moratorium, a cornucopia, a mournacopia. She's gone to a better place. What a disgrace. She snuffed it. No, she bluffed it. She's pushing up the daisies. What a bunch of crazies. She's left this mortal coil, but these euphemisms are causing so much inner semantic turmoil. I think my mother would be more excited by posh kitchen foil. She's met a maker. What, the Great British Baker? She's now at peace, at least. She checked out, but she never checked in. What's it all about? She's expired. Well, was that required? She's at the pearly gates. Well, that's up for debate. She's met her demise. Please advise. She went west, wherever next. She's joined the choir eternal. She'd be more concerned about wearing her thermals. She's perished. No, cherished. She shook hands with Elvis. What? She'll be shaking her pelvis. Time has come. Well, don't be dumb. She died with her boots on. No, she'll be scrolling Groupon. She's taken her final curtain call. Well, that's not what I recall. She had one foot in the grave. Ah, come on, behave. She said the big adios. Well, I think she'd be more concerned about her veins varicose. She's popped her clogs. She'd rather gaze at frocks in catalogues. She'd worm food. That is just plain rude. She gave up the ghost. She should have given up smoking. Sorry, Sheila. Now that's what I call gross. She's now at rest. I never would have guessed. She's bitten the dust. No, she'll increase her bust. Excuse me, what's the fuss? She walked over the Rainbow Bridge. She'd be more excited by cleaning the fridge. The Grim Reaper has taken her away. To where exactly? Does she have a say? She croaked. No, she had a stroke. And believe me, that is no joke. She's not with us anymore. Why the semantic war? She took the last train to glory. What's the story? She lost her battle, but she never started one. She'd be well rattled. She joined her ancestors. Nah, she'd join the protesters. She's sleeping with the fishes. Nah, she's doing the dishes. She's taken her last bow. But we need to talk about things properly. Let's start now.
Marvelous. Listen, I want to share one of mine with you along the same
wonderful.
lines. It there was an incident here on this side about a young woman who'd had a stroke, was being kept alive even though she was brain dead. Her husband wanted to let her go. Her family, who was, let's say, of a peculiar religious persuasion, insisted that she be kept alive. So this is called For Terry. Her name was Terry. For Terry. As far as it goes for me, if I cough, shut me off. If I bleed, sign the deed. If I blink, don't even think. If I groan, send me home. If I choke, cut the rope. If I faint, I'm a saint. If I snore, shut the door. Heart attack, send me back. If I burp, time for turf. If I itch, dig the ditch. If I scratch, throw the latch. If I sniff, what's the diff? I can't hardly wriggle, hire a digger. Getting worse, hire the hearse. No longer brave, just dig a grave. Begin to doubt, send me out. Can't hardly whisper, read the Vespers. Can't seem to hear, pour the beer. Can't budge or burgeon, call a surgeon. Can't lose no weight, then just cremate. Can't stop the worry, don't wait, just bury. I seem in the way, just throw me away. They take up space, then it's time for grace. Don't wait, don't pause. Don't read the third clause. Don't just pull the plug, shake the rug, yank the tube. It's not rude. Pull the plug. Don't be a slug. The game's all done. Hey, you can use a gun. In that same dry vein.
I loved it. I absolutely loved that poem. Thank you.
Okay, now back to the main course.
The main course. I love that. Right. Okay. Yes. All right. I think I've done this before. You may have heard it.
It'll be my honor to hear it again, my dear.
Oh. Okay. This is a poem made up of oxymorons. It's called Foxymoron. I'm like a passive-aggressive, uninvited guest. I'm clearly misunderstood. Like a minor catastrophe, yet I try to be awfully good. I do things accidentally on purpose, but my antics are old news. Expect the unexpected because I'm clearly confused. My stupidity is almost limitless. I try to be horribly nice. The genuine imitation is as useful as dry ice. My crash-landing life is like a tragic comedy. Perhaps I should be buried alive. The foolish wisdom led to deliberate mistakes. I'm as honest as a true lie. I'm clearly ambiguous with cavalier concern. I think I'd trust myself more if I was a freezer burn. I try to be seriously funny, as lively as the living dead. And I'd hoped for friendly fire, but I'm a positive pessimist instead. I pretend to be incredibly normal, but life is sharply dull. I'm as useful as non-stick glue, yet I pretend to be seriously fun. A page, I'm like intentionally blank, a rebel without a cause. My life is organised chaos. That's pure speculation, of course. I'm as useful as noiseless sound, as helpful as a nameless celebrity. I think I'm simply wonderful, but I'm the major minority. They said I was found missing, all alone together, the same difference, so act natural. I'll float around like a heavy feather. I'm deceptively honest. Fuzzy logic is so false it's true. And if I wrote a detailed summary, I would demand a permanent substitute. As a randomly organised advanced beginner, when I lose, I still think I'm the winner. I celebrate both random order and systematic disorder, a self-confessed throwaway hoarder. My cruel kindness is an open secret, played out on repeat. This poem is pretty ugly, but sometimes life's so bittersweet. I'm harmful, and I beg your pardon, it's harmful to ignore contradiction. It's a bit like painless torture, can't you see? I can't think of the best way to describe me, so maybe it's a case of sweet sorrow. And would Trump say, let's make contradiction great again? And if so, I'm the foxymoron. Sorry.
Oh no, that was marvelous, marvelous. Okay, I'm going to share another one with you because you have really just been so inspiring, my dear. This one is and I'm so appreciative that you mention that, and the way I think of it myself is I have my default setting is melancholy. So I work humor to help me and to help you. That's the whole game, in my opinion. So this is about a cell phone call that, cell phones are, let me be generous and say, a mixed blessing. On the one hand, it's convenient. On the other hand, it's too goddamn convenient. So many of us will sensibly turn off the phone at a certain time so that we can have, some private time, some human time. But this one night, I forgot. And at 10 o'clock, I got a call. So this is called, I got a call. I got a call the other day from a charming chap who called out, "Hey, we'd like to secure your house and grounds. Have you researched it yet? What have you found?" I hadn't looked thus far. I said, "I haven't been too concerned, not consumed in trembling dread." "We have a special deal this week," he said. "We have everything that you might seek. What kind of service interests you? Would you like a peek?" I replied to his inquiry. It literally leapt from me, since I was intrigued by this, even inspired. See, could we get some critters from the zoo, perhaps a lion or a tiger or an ape or two, that might patrol and scare off intruders, like maybe a pack of black-tipped sharks, like from Bermuda, or a pack of wolves to patrol at night? That'd scare off any burglars who take to their heels on a cloudless night. They very well might. Or laser cannons might be nice, either on AI or IR on automatic, right? Either way, to pierce or sever might be just a thing. It might be clever. Mounted high above on the roof, 360 swivel. Tell the truth. Old Buck Rogers certainly had it, or maybe a minefield hidden on the sidewalk, buried deep in the macadam. You wouldn't always need to be fatal, but just a tad more dangerous than a spinning dreidel. What do you say? Linked to an X-ray scan to carefully detect whether woman or man? I'd really like a mode, of course. What would your card charge for such a diggardly, dastardly resource? Complete with alligators or piranha. Either way, we'd need a bridge on them. A small contingent of guards might be nice to toss them in when it's time for feeding. I was thinking maybe a nice course of mines. Bouncing betties might be just a thing. It would work just fine. We'd need a map of where they were placed, or you too might get a kiss from pretty Bouncing Betty right there where you used to have a face. Hey, could you supply a dozen heads on spikes? It would reduce intruders. It very well might. He sounded sheepish. In his retort, he had something else in mind, of course. But before he could speak, I offered this. As I reflected on pretty Betty's bouncing bliss, a flock of peregrine falcons, perhaps, or a brace of eagles, they could catch the updrive. It would look quite regal. He interrupted and began quite nervously to laugh. And then he faltered and started. We had to mind a doorbell camera that would show any person you have, like a package there on the floor, tied to an app installed on your phone, so you could check around your house when you're away from home. Oh, so downhearted, I had to ask, was this all he had at last? Well, he posed, they could put sensors on the windows in case someone tried to climb in and break your glass. I gasped. No wildebeest, no roaming boars, no honking flonk of noisy swans, I implored. No moat, no laser-sighted guns. Oh, gosh, I chuckled, you're just no fun. I already pay a team of orcs. They're a rowdy bunch, but they need to work. And I already have a team of pterodactyls on patrol, but you know how messy they are. They're out of control. I bet he'll never call me again.
I've been doing that a lot, haven't I? I've been muting myself.
That's okay. It only makes the sound of your lovely voice even more pronounced.
Well, speaking of lovely sounds, thank you, and not so lovely sounds. Speaking of technology and video doorbells, perhaps this one might. Menu 2.0, a near future menu. 404, menu not found. Enter password to activate menu with Face ID. This is a read-only multimodal menu. Each dish has a 360-degree viewing option. Please let us know if your voice assistant has any allergies. Please note, we accept Bitcoin only. Starters. Matt Bruschetta, safe mode soup of the day with freeware focaccia, operating system mixed olives with GIF garlic, num lock nachos. Main course, apple mac and cheese, of course, pixel pie, Bluetooth butternut squash salad, matrix mashed potatoes with mood-enhancing bao dumplings with USB sauce. 3D printed Sunday dinner with preserved post-digital pickle, pixel pulled pork with adaptogens. Sides, mixed reality salad, firewall fries, non-fungible fries, holographic hummus. Desserts, crypto croissant with LED lemon curd, shortcut shortbread, machine learning macaroon, immersive ice cream, debugged desiccated coconut over GIF enhanced gooseberry grapes, source code scone with bandwidth butter and JPEG jam, encrypted eclair, proxy profiteroles and chipset cheeseboard. Drinks, QR code Coca-Cola, bring your own Bluetooth beer, selfie enhanced Sprite, and cloud latte. Code your own clatte in the cloud. Send your bill to Elon Musk.
Oh my God, that you've outdone yourself again. My
You know
God.
that most of that will be true.
Oh, yes. Yes, 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 indeed. Just hook up your 3D printer, honey. Dinner's on the way.
I think that's an interesting idea as a sort of speculative, technocratic food possibility.
Oh my God, yes. Absolutely.
Okay. I recently, in the last year, was diagnosed with diabetes. So I write a lot about health, illness, and things. So I wanted to explore diabetes and glucose and insulin. So this is a poem about diabetes, and it's called The Emperor's New Glucose. So after Hans Christian Andersen. The diabetes of diabetes beat. But what is diabetes? Does diabetes know? Is it a flight of fancy fruity fructose? A lachrymose, lactose? Does it make me more morose? Yes. Should I wear the Emperor's New Glucose? If less glucose is more, is it less morose? I'm enveloped by sugar realities and comatose. Diabetes is like a new hope, a trope. It's a case of 50 shades of glucose. Tinker, Tailor, sugar, sailor, more sugar, less sailor. Don't you know? Diabetes affects everything. Heads, shoulders, knees, and sugar-free polos. And eyes and ears. This ubiquitous glucose. Could I have predicted my diabetic destiny through reading horoscopes? Perhaps these diabetic dominoes alienate us like sucrose-infused UFOs. It all feels so nebulous. Can diabetes turn me into a ghost in the sugary shadows? Maybe I'm glued to these glucose ghettos. Who knows? What should I eat now? What should I eat now? What should I eat now? Should I replace Nando's with burritos and tacos with 1,000,000 artichokes? No added sugar, but what if I microdose? Would I become a giant marshmallow? Am I a joke? Is my diabetic reflection too grandiose? An over-the-top sycophantic anecdote? Maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. But what would diabetes mean for superheroes? What if Batman was type 2 diabetic? What about the philosophers like Plato and the artists, the Picassos, the pharaohs? Did they have diabetes? What about the scarecrows and the Eskimos? Is it just for poets? Am I a diabetic weirdo? What is insulin? Is it a hormone that knows? And what will it do next? It's a bit like Cotton Eye Joe. Where did you come from, insulin, and where do you go? So, as I compose my new life around what has been diagnosed, I dispose of my sugary identities. Did I get the diabetic memo? As sugar comes and goes, the highs, the lows, it's not all, folks. My diabetes will be my partner in rhyme, and I'll be singing Auld Lang Enzyme. And if we are what we eat, and what we eat today will be all of our tomorrows, and we cannot cheat. So please allow me to eat my own words.
Oh my gosh, so wonderful. Wonderful, dear. Absolutely wonderful. My gosh. Uh, you prompt me in so many directions. This one I absolutely have to share with you because I'm sure you've heard the same nonsense that I've heard. I was appearing in a Boston poetry group, and a woman who had been presented to me as the editor of a very prestigious poetry literary magazine. She said to me, Richard, I've heard your work. I have to tell you this. As an editor, you must know that poetry, to be respected, for you to have any kind of poetry career, has to be serious, has to be sad, has to be detailing the human experience in all its horrible trauma. And then, as if your merriment isn't enough, you rhyme. Didn't you know that rhyming is passé at best? And she said, and what's worse? And I give her, she knew my work. She'd read it. She said, and what's worse? You rhyme sometimes even within a line. And I said, well, I appreciate your career advice. But you see, I answer to amuse. So a little later, I wrote this in response. I considered reading it to her, but I thought, Cole's to Newcastle. So here's this. It's called He Lost His Morose. It gave up the ghost. Well-intentioned, yet honest friends, I guess, hoped to coax him from out his mess. This constant, wry, sarcastic humor steers him away from this greater potential for success. Ah, alas, if he could only laud distress, a doleful childhood, estranged at birth, instead of all this loathsome clunking mirth. And merry-making on top of that. How about you try to cry? Or perhaps an undertaker's hat, or maybe a strange and melancholy, shiftless, black and soft-stepping cat. Poe had his raven, that's for sure, parked there above his chamber door on the bust of Pallas. Maudlin, sure. Think onst, maybe one of old Yorick's skulls, perhaps, or a heart, a thumping neath the wooden floorboard's mat. But irony and merry wit? What's the brighter writer's market first nighters Carolina to do with that goo? And your work not only rhymes, but does so many times within a line. Such wit you should immediately quit. Not the sort of stuff we favor. So what? If Herculean are your labor, we cannot take you any more serious than your humor, like Jim Neighbors at the opera labors unrequited. This you must know, despite how clearly it shows, even yet you're somehow still delighted. You must muck about and moan and wail. I mean, that's the way Ahab said you're going to land the whale. And old Queequeg, with his tattooed face, he knew exactly when he threw the bones that heaps of sorrow gained you space. If you cannot skeer an editor, he'll never enlarge you or be your debtor. Instead, in the margins you'll be left, ill better to the letter. You must give them sleepless nights, tell tall tales of ghosties. Get it right. No more these joyous chuckles of yours. Really, you must try to scare them and freak them out. They're unprepared unless you sing a song of melancholy. Your skills, no doubt, so don't you worry. But tell tall tales of beatings that you once endured. And just how many countless nights brigands threaten you with swords. Hearty laughs. Leave them oddly puzzled, afeard they're checked to see if it's their wine you've guzzled. An optimist, my friend, the signs are weak. Canst thou not study how to scream, bitch, complain, and shriek? Far better wert thou a disgruntled fellow. That's the way thou shalt find thy chances of success are doubled. This cacophonous riot of your rhyme, even friends, your lines so scan no simple target than to match the scholar's plan. They do not conform themselves by stately measure. And then you, unconventional, throw 3 rhymes per line. Don't mark it. It's clearly an unwanted treasure. Quite outside the formal, fickle, favored, savored, mournful chime. Canst thou not oft in a darkened alley? Canst thou not thy hero self refine? Well, says I, as a callow youth, then I did haunt the darkened stair, the stony cell, the hangman's threadbare, uncarpeted and gravelled lair. But struck me then, at 13 or thereabouts, that all seen through a mask of gloom and doubt, thou might spend a lonely fortnight outside love's jurisdiction, and there's the route, and that's no fiction, can leave no doubt. Would I not a lonely and air requited sojourner remain, if I only kept time with sadness, and thence a woeful cynic remain? But do not flower, bloom, and flourish each and every spring, that they mightest encourage. Even the cynic drives his cart and clumsy wheel o'ertop the heart. Where blossoms there the softest petal, only to crush and break yon pretty young wing, that, good sir, is a grand mal mistake I will not make.
Superb. That is superb. That is a fine piece of work.
Every time I see this, I'm going to give her well-intentioned, but it just makes me laugh because I know enough of heartache. I do. I really do. I don't want to share that. I'd rather see you smile. That's just my twisted way.
I get you. I get you.
Well, my dear, if you have one more for us, that's great. If not, I will then ask you instead to say, what words, what line, what wisdom would you share with our poet friends?
Nothing. Create your own.
Dear, dear Philippa, my dear pet, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have made this stage a grace.
Thank you, Richard, for your support and your opportunity. Thank you.
But again, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so very much. It is such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I hope to see you next Tuesday.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful evening, my dear.
You too. Thank you, Richard. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye, dear.